I don't know where everybody else is at, but we're here, so that's good.
Yeah, nice to see you again. Students are always very pleased to see you and interact with you.
Yeah.
Sorry about my mess up with the time. I thought we already are in another time zone, but it's not until next week, I guess.
Yes, it's just Saturday night. Sunday morning is when we go to time. So I'm sorry.
Right. Okay.
I forgot all about it. This is the last week of the slow time.
So for confirmation, can we move the May Food for Thought date to what did I?
I think it's May 20th. Didn't you want that?
Let's see, 21st.
21st. Okay, we can move to May 21st.
Which is your Thursday? Well, all of our Thursday here as well.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
And I also saw that you have 18 on another conference, so that would be better for you too, I guess. You have
Yeah,
18
probably.
another conference.
I'm getting kind of jammed up on some of these conferences, but yeah, it'll work out really well. We're supposed to be joined by a school in Lebanon and a school in Turkey and a school in South Africa and our guest speaker, and they haven't called in yet, but we're going to go ahead and start a little bit. This time we're going to do it a little bit different. We're going to actually get everybody signed up into a Google Classroom. They can download all these fantastic resource materials and stuff. And we're going to have a moot court at the later part of the year. Also, Mary, we made a moot court out of that Peter Peddler case too, so that's kind of neat. Appeals.
Yes, I saw that. Oh yeah, about that. Perhaps could we also do the original style, because students are really keen with the witness taking the stand and everything.
Yeah.
So if we can find a school who is interested in such a style.
Right. We can do both. It'd be kind of neat to actually have the case and then next week try to do the appeals.
Yeah, that's what I had in mind, because then it would like be a sequel.
Yeah. It would actually give them a whole good idea of what real court would be like. Not that compressed, but it would work. Okay, I guess while we're waiting, why don't you go ahead and present your racism, and I have a deal about racism in the United States. And then hopefully by that time we'll be joined by the people in South Africa. They're going to show us about this particular case. If not, I have the material and I'll do it.
Okay. One quick question. Did you say you have a speaker today?
Yes.
Can you
Gentleman.
tell a bit about him or her?
Yeah. Adrian Myers, he's a lawyer in South Africa. And he and I have been working together on this project. He used to be, he's quite a philanthropist. I can't pronounce it right, but he's quite he works with NGOs in South Africa. And he and I came up with this court case. I wrote the court case, and he wrote all the materials supporting it. And the kids are going to get an idea of racism in South Africa. And what the idea was, we're going to go from racism into our local countries, look at racism around the world with other countries, and then look at racism in particular in South Africa, so people get a pretty good idea what racism may be. A lot more so than they would at this point. And these are actual current type court cases that are going on right in South Africa today. So it's kind of nice.
I quickly glanced over the South African case, and I thought it was real unique, because it's from a different perspective, right?
Right. In this case, they have all the laws set up that they can't be prejudiced against anybody, and then all of a sudden they have other laws that say that you can. So you're going to have to argue both sides. And normally it's not traditional that we normally think of majority not getting affirmative action, but in this case, majority does get affirmative action. It doesn't really work out too well. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
talking
It's
to
a
my
very
students
interesting
about,
case. It's much different than we have
I was
here
just
in the
talking to my
States.
students about, the white people feeling, biased and prejudiced against it, which is,
Oh, yeah.
not the common ones that we see, because normally we have this idea, if you're like being prejudiced or biased, then it's probably, a minority group from a minority group.
Yeah, and in fact, in South Africa, for many years, if you were Asian, you were considered colored. So people were treated really, really badly. There's no doubt about that now, or no doubt about that back then. The problem is that can you institutionalize it on the other shoe? It goes the other way. Can you do it the same way? And two wrongs don't make a right. That's basically what we're trying to talk about in this one. So I don't know. It's something that's kind of interesting. In the fall, we're going to do one on water rights, which is really kind of neat. So the kids are going to get a pretty good experience of different types of stuff. I was thinking about like Roy or somebody like you had in the past. It'd be really neat to actually expand. You can learn English, you can learn law, you can learn a lot of different things all at the same time.
Yeah, as long as you're willing to commit, and be determined, I think almost anything is possible.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a problem with people nowadays. I would say many are impatient and they don't see things through. And that is I think that's the main obstacle that we see in kids nowadays. Some are smart, or many are smart, and but they don't follow through with what they had started, and so they could probably be dropping out any time throughout the semester, which is I would say is such a pity for them.
Yeah, in the United States, we have a lot of difficulties. The work ethic of the younger people is not the same as it used to be, and even with our teachers and different things, you notice. I talked to Clayton the other day, and they're having tremendous amount of labor difficulties in Canada when it comes to teachers. But here in the United States, many teachers will take like 1-2 days off a week and not think anything about it. Well, you can't really teach kids if you have a 1-2 skip a few type of attitude,
Did you say the teacher takes a day off a week?
Oh, yeah, we have many teachers in the United States that we get so many days off a year. Well, most of the time people just don't take them. You just accumulate them, and when you get retired, I don't know, whatever, you take some in. But I think at our school district we get like 5 state days and 5 local days, so you get 10 days a year. But some people think that they just take them whether they're sick or not, So they call off every Friday, or they call off like that. And then we're having a really problem with this coronavirus. We have a real big art music festival coming up, South by Southwest, and this morning Facebook pulled out of it, and there's a petition going around trying to stop the concerts and stuff because of the potential of the coronavirus. So it's getting kind of crazy.
Wow. I would think that getting a sub is an even more challenging issue.
Oh yeah, we have.
Nobody here likes to take a day off, because prepping the materials for the sub is an even more tiring job.
Yeah, it's someday we'll discuss this when I'm not taping it, and I'll tell you what I really think. But it's a totally different mindset. You guys have a much stronger mindset when it comes to dedication, to make sure that the students are successful than a lot of our people do.
Well, thank you for the compliment. I'm sure you have a lot of great teachers there.
No, I'm not saying we don't have great teachers. I'm just saying on the average, I would assume that the people I've seen in Taiwan, the people I've seen in Japan, the people I've seen in Korea have a much different attitude when it comes to school than the teachers do. Because, I've seen some teachers in Korea that are putting in tremendous amount of hours. I know how much you and Brian put in, you know, because I actually get to live part of it with you guys because I see you putting in hours. We wouldn't have that many people here doing it for little or no money.
Well, we're the exceptions.
Yeah, well, you know, I come into your living room once a week or two, so, you know, I kind of feel like I know y'all.
Well, my principal was also saying this too, because we have other schools inquiring about how we are implementing this, great project for 15 years, I think almost 15 years. And my principal was saying, oh, I have the teacher who is a really exception, and she and her husband are doing all the, international projects and putting in a lot of extra hours, which is probably something that you cannot do in your school. So I don't know. So I guess we're an exceptions.
Yeah, well, that's really good because I could easily see once you eliminate the one teacher that's doing this, the projects seem to go away.
Mm.
And the bad part about it is it shouldn't be that way, but that ends up happening because people have to do this out of love, not necessarily out of money or anything else. Because I don't think you and Brian put as many hours in as you did if you didn't love it.
I know. We're doing this all out of for free and out of our own will, because it's what we want. We hope that the students can all succeed and learn well.
Right.
And also, that's one of the things that my principal was saying to the other schools as well, is that because the other principal said, oh, where do you get the budget to do this and that? And the principal said, well, you need teachers who are willing to come in and volunteer and do it for free.
Oh yeah, and that's gonna yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and start. If you want to start yours, good.
So we will push the PowerPoint slide now, and the report, the presentation itself is not too long, it's quite short instead, but the students probably have some questions or would like to interact with you and
yeah, that would be great.
And get your thoughts on this. Do you see our slide?
I sure can. Thank you, Mary. And if you could send that to me too, and we'll put it in the Google Classroom as far as for other people to say. Also, going to put the video. Go ahead.
Did you grant access to us yet?
Yeah, all you got to do is sign up. I think I'll send it to you at the end of the thing here so you can get in.
All right. Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Okay. Hello, we are affiliated Senior High School of Zhongxin University, Taiwan. Today we will tell you about the situation of racism in Taiwan, and we will discuss the challenges that immigrant workers face. Racial discrimination is actually not that widespread serious in Taiwan. There are some cases of racial conflicts, most of which are caused by misunderstanding of religious or cultural differences. For instance, pork is an important part of Taiwanese diet, but in one case, a person of Muslim protested that he was not at liberty to refuse eating pork. In another case, a lady was made to take off her hijab. Also, some people may view immigrant workers as cheap labor. In Taiwanese, it's pronounced 瓦勒. In Chinese, it's pronounced 外劳. This is a derogatory remark in Taiwanese and Chinese. And there is a new term now, immigrant workers or foreign workers. In reality, we appreciate their assistance in our labor force in Taiwan. Immigrant workers account for 2.5% of the population in Taiwan. In other words, there is one immigrant worker out of every 40 Taiwanese people. Immigrant workers have become an essential part of labor force in Taiwan, and we are grateful to them.
Conflict also arises because people worry about fewer employment opportunities and losing their jobs to foreigners. However, most immigrant workers take on dangerous heavy lifting jobs. Some provide care for patients in critical condition at home. These jobs are not the local Taiwanese people's top choices. In other words, immigrant workers won't impact the employment opportunities. In fact, foreign workers help to meet the demand of the market, taking on less popular jobs. Without immigrant workers, underlying industries in Taiwan will be short-staffed. Racial discrimination is mainly caused by lack of knowledge as well as lack of understanding among people of different racial backgrounds. We hope Taiwanese and foreign workers can understand each other better and respect one another's differences. Cultural diversity can help us learn so much from one another. That is all for our presentation. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I've had a question I hope was proper in asking. When Chiang Kai-shek came to Taiwan, was there ever any racial tension between the people from Taiwan and the people from nationalist China when they came?
Do you understand the question? No? And let me explain it in Chinese first.
Okay, great. That'd be great. Hey, Mary, your sound's gone off.
Okay, so yeah, we're trying to get the meaning in English across.
Okay, good.
At that time, China was defeated by Japan's army, Japanese army. So Chinese is hate the Japanese people, and Taiwanese was dominated by the Japanese before the Shanghai.
Yeah, so it was under Japanese rule
Right.
during that period.
Yeah, and so Taiwan was seen to be a Japanese country. So there is a lot of
Conflict.
conflict.
So in addition to differences in culture and customs, there's also the historical aspect, the political aspect of the tension between China and Japan.
Right.
I think
Did-
we are Japanese because we was ruled by the Japan. So when Chinese army came to Taiwan after World War II, they think Taiwanese is
Military.
Japanese but not Chinese. Yeah. So we have
military, not army.
oh army military.
Army is
also with-
infantry.
Okay.
The people from the military people as well as their family, right?
And the government officer.
Right, and the official.
对，总共200万。
Okay, well, I know that's pretty sensitive, so I apologize. I didn't mean to offend anybody, but I was always interested. When I was a little kid, Madam Chiang Kai-shek came to our school and talked, so I was always impressed with that. So
You actually heard him speak in person?
I actually heard his wife speak,
Oh.
and she was very impressive. So I thought I've always asked if I'd ever get there. Is there much difference between religions, or is Taiwan when it comes to racism are religions pretty well all accepted in Taiwan?
在对种族歧视方面来讲，那个宗教方面我们有冲突。
宗教没有，宗教比较没有，但是生活习惯比较多元。
We don't have a
Conflict in
conflict
religion.
in
Yeah,
religion, but because we all believe in, we have religious freedom.
Yes.
Since very early.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the thing that we have conflict is life habit. Yeah.
And what would be the biggest conflict in that area?
生活上的冲突，赶快 take questions 那个生活上的不一样，比较
The ways of praying, the ways of
因为
praying.
被日本人管了50年，所以
或提问的 Go 打开。Yeah. Okay. So who would like to answer that? So what are some differences that cause the conflict? So we mentioned the different ways of life, different lifestyles and habits. So we need to give some examples.
and the language.
Oh, and also the language. So anybody want to? You can just talk about one aspect, and you can another person can continue.
In the aspect of language, when I first came to Taiwan, they speak Chinese, but
Mandarin.
Yeah, Mandarin,
Mandarin.
Mandarin Chinese, or yeah, it's called Mandarin Chinese.
But they have different accent.
Yeah.
Totally different accent.
But we were colonized by Japan, so we spoke Japanese for a long time.
Japanese and Taiwanese, right?
Yeah, Japanese and Taiwanese. Yeah,
How much different is Taiwanese from Mandarin?
They have the same grammar, but the different pronunciation.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I've actually heard it, and it doesn't sound the same. Although the words, never mind. But I mean, it sounds much different to me when I hear it. So that's all I was asking.
That is actually correct, because for students who want to be like doctors or nurses, they are required to know both languages. Because if you do not know the Taiwanese language and the elders come, the elderly citizen come to the hospitals, then communication would be a problem. So it's like you said, it's that different.
Yeah,
It's that much of a difference.
I had no earthly idea, except I watched some Taiwanese and I watched some Chinese dramas, and even though the words look the same, and they translate the same into English, it sounds completely different. So it's kind of interesting how it picks up like that. I don't know. It's kind of strange.
And also, in addition to language difference, then there are also other differences. Anybody else want to talk about other differences? For example, under Japanese rule, people in Taiwan, their social order and what they expect of one another in terms of decorum or in other situations. Anybody want to talk about that?
Like the social order, take the example of like we Taiwanese like to line up to buy some food or to participate some activity. But in did I say China?
Yeah, although there's nationals when they came from China, they don't have this habit, right,
Yeah, they don't have this habit.
of lining up.
Okay.
And so that also caused a lot of conflict because people think you're trying to rob them of their opportunity. And of course, you need to wait for your turn. You don't just, go to the front and
Okay.
take away people's opportunities.
Would you say like people are pushing and shoving and trying to cut in line and stuff like that when they lined up?
That
So
is correct.
they took that as
Yes.
offense?
Yes, that is correct.
Wow. That's interesting. Now, how long were the Japanese in control of the island of Taiwan or Formosa?
50 years.
Oh, that's a long time, half a century.
Wow. So did they take over the same time they took over Korea? Or a little bit before?
Yeah. 韩国更久，
多久？
They
韩国
took,
60几。
they ruled Korea much longer than Taiwan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
My history's bad.
now today. Let me ask you a question. I ask my students: is there still animosity towards Japanese people today, especially among the people who are your elders?
Could you elaborate on that question?
Okay, in some cultures, the older you are, you can remember some stories about the Japanese and what they did to your families. There's still looking down upon the Japanese. And if that's the case, if they were to date somebody from Japan, what would their parents think or grandparents?
So the question would be, what do your grandparents, probably grandparents, parents probably no recollection,
Yeah. Great
grandparents think their viewpoint on Japanese rule of Taiwan? 当时那个就是
go to the school and learn the Japanese, and they can speak spoke much Taiwanese. Yeah. And
I'm sorry, I didn't get to hear all that because they were changing from the sharing screen. What did you say again?
Can we dial back again because you've been frozen for a while?
Okay, good. Go ahead, dial back.
他只给我们那个高阶的，只有医生跟
跟着
老师。
Okay. I guess you can hear us now. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but we don't see you yet.
Ah, okay. What's just going on?
So the students were just, it's interesting fact, the students are too young and they say that their grandparents don't even have experience, not, let alone their parents of the Japanese
Yeah.
rule.
You know,
So I would like to share a bit about my grandparents' view and Mr. Lin's grandparents' view. I believe that they have both good things and bad things to say about the Japanese government and their role in Taiwan. Let's say the ones that are not so good. For example, they forced the people in Taiwan to speak Japanese, but of course, in an aspect or in a way, we can understand how that is their policy because perhaps it is necessary for them so that everyone can be on the same page in reading their stuff and perhaps for propaganda as well.
right.
And so that's one aspect. So people are made to speak their language. And also in some job opportunities, they would want their people, the Japanese people, to have the jobs that are of higher social status. So from my recollection or the things that my grandparents said, the Taiwanese people were, for the higher rankings or higher status jobs, the Taiwanese people were allowed only to be doctors and teachers.
Or some police officers.
Some police officers, some
low level.
lower ranking police officers, but jobs like lawyers will be people from Japan, right?
Yeah, but
Wow.
something very interesting is that although we do not speak any Japanese anymore currently, but we still using many Japanese vocabulary in our daily life. Over 99% Taiwanese people know what those words mean, like a truck, like a a motorcycle, like an apple, like a tomato, like some vocabulary describe emotion. Yeah, we still using those vocabulary in our daily life.
Yeah,
Wow.
so I think those are influences that came down from the language policy. And so what we're saying is that a lot of the Taiwanese language has incorporated a large part of Japanese language as well. So sometimes it's are you saying that word in Japanese or Taiwanese? I mean, there's a blurry line. And that's an interesting fact because there's no good or bad side of this. It's just something that has happened along the way.
Okay.
And
Today,
go ahead.
today, Mary, how many people, I guess you consider yourself Taiwanese, not Chinese anymore, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I understand. I didn't want to insult anybody. But at one time, didn't the people that came from China still consider themselves Chinese, not Taiwanese?
That is, actually, we still have people who think they're Chinese and not Taiwanese because I don't think, we would actually blame them because they are actually from China, right? And there are some people who think they're both Chinese and Taiwanese, which is acceptable as well. I mean, I think that's a good thing because identifying yourself, as with different origins, I think that's also the truth and also the history. So I think there's nothing wrong with that.
No, that's actually that's really good because in the long run, you're a lot more accepting if you do it that way than you are if you deny what has happened,
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of like what racism is. Sometimes you just deny what is inevitable or whatever, and that's kind of interesting. I was going to ask another question. Can you tell somebody from Japan by looking at them? Can you tell somebody who's got Japanese origin?
Do you mean by their appearance?
Yeah.
可以一看就知道这个是日本人吗？
有一些
Some, they're saying some, because nowadays, some people, their appearances change due to different reasons. Perhaps they have parents from different countries, or they have some kind of surgery, plastic surgery. But if a number, I don't know, a certain number of people from Japan can be identified immediately from their appearance. Yeah.
Okay. And I would assume that today, is there traditional clothing for Taiwan people wear it all, or no?
我们有传统服饰吗？
Indigenous people have some traditional.
Only the indigenous people from Taiwan have their traditional clothing. Unfortunately, this is one of the things that I really, think a lot into. I really would like to have our own traditional clothing because it's always neat to see people from other countries in their attire. It's so neat, but we don't have our own, traditional clothing.
I was thinking I know like in Korea, if you go to the Joseon period, they have certain clothes. If you go back to the Three Kingdom period, they'll have certain clothes and in certain kingdoms in China, they had certain types of clothes. I just was wondering if they had clothes in Taiwan. We've been joined by a good friend of ours. It's you talked to her before. She's from Lebanon. Their school's on one of the like you are. They shut down the schools in Lebanon for 2 weeks because of coronavirus. So she's joined us by her iPhone, and we just given the and I don't know what's happened. They may have a blackout in South Africa, so I might have to do that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hi. Great to see you. And you're connecting from your home, right?
Yes.
Yes, because our schools now, where we have the coronavirus, the schools are all off, and hope that things will get okay and we'll get back to week. So,
How
hello
many
everybody.
days are you off? How many days did they shut down your school?
Yeah, we're off till March 10 now, and hope that we can be back after March 10.
Okay, good, very good. What I'm about to introduce to you, it will be, let me show you what I was going to share with you, and then hopefully we'll be joined by a couple other places, but it's been kind of tough today. I really appreciate the readings from Taiwan. They were very good. Okay. Let's see. I got to get the share part. I'm sorry.
So I have some questions. I'm a teacher in Taiwan. My name is Mei Mei. What grades do you teach and what subject? Do you hear my question?
Yeah, I may have her on mute, so let me just, I didn't mean to do that. Just a second. Let me get that, okay? Okay. Let me stop the share. And, no, I don't have a mute. Can you hear us?
Yeah. I am an English language teacher from Lebanon. I teach grades 10, 11, and 12. I teach them English. And definitely we follow the thematic curriculum. We work on human values, on against pollution, on health and nutrition, and different themes that cover content-based curriculum. My age group students from 15 till 18.
No. She does a really, really good job. And you're in Said? Is that how you pronounce it right or no? S-A-I-D, Lebanon?
Yeah. We're behind the campaign, let's spread the word, not the virus. Yeah.
And they came up with this really cute idea, so I put that thing in. We've been doing pretty good on that. The problem is, I think this, I could go into coronavirus for a long time, but let me try to go in this racism deal, because this is actually something that's really neat. I'm going to share with you the first, I'm going to show you. Sorry.
Thank you. I also teach the same grades and the same subject as you do.
Yeah, you both do a fantastic job. What you see now, and you should see on your screen, this is the Google Classroom. And the neat thing about this is they all are very large files, and they can be downloaded by anybody. Now, she's already signed up, and we'll get you guys to sign up later. But we're going to look at the first one is this PowerPoint, and I'm going to go through it. Okay, title of this is Racism, Moot Court, and you'll see silhouetted images there. And this is Global Schools Diploma Program. Notice it's spelled in the English. We're going to, there's some information that you see here, and we have the logo down there for about racism. A key to successful career in lawmaking, law enforcement, or jurisprudence lies in the design, development, and management of a functional future career path. Start early while you're still at school and select themes and topics that you deal with future courtrooms. then respectively calculate and predict which attributes you need to develop them. On the critical importance and assertive sustained development of future knowledge, skills, experience, and perceptions. Know for sure the future real-time courtroom will be a very competitive environment where only the strongest legal minds survive. The most successful law practitioners are those who build strong knowledge base while still taking part in competitive moot court activities at an early age. Moot court is the best learning law lab. And these are some of the certificates that we'll be passing out for the people in the different phases of the experience. Now, we realize that not everybody wants to be a lawyer, a lawmaker, a defender, a prosecutor, so we ended today with the Law Career Curriculum for the Future, the world's first case study moot court curriculum program, where you learn to design and create your future law career prediction algorithm. The future of the world of work is under construction today. The immense progress in technology development is giving tomorrow's world a very different look and feel. There are many new careers and occupations. He's mentioned about the fifth industrial revolution, the fifth mobile technology revolution, 5G, and 8K screen resolution technology. You know, a lot of us just have 4K and they're all the way up to 8K. The golden rule of success in litigation is the validation of facts presented through the evidence of the court and the functional presentation of the court. Remember, there are 4 interrelated and interactive rules. 1, good lawyers may successfully present badly prepared cases to a judge and jury. 2, unprepared, understanding lawyers may lose well-prepared cases and strong fact-based cases. 3, the same rules are valid for judges and magistrates and juries, are also fallible. The key is prepare your cases well. Nobody wants to be branded as a loser. Become successful. I have always followed the litigation standard set by Sun Tzu. A famous Chinese general says, expect the best, but prepare for the worst. Courtroom tactics to be successful. Think ahead, detail. Verify all the facts in the case. Know the content of your case very well. Read between the lines. Prepare for opposing team's strategy, and follow Sun Tzu. Okay, the 2 documents will be placed to you in the center. The first is going to be the actual case. We'll go over a little bit later. Follow the line of investigation. Present the case will be the bedrock of success. Follow various previous verdicts. That's case laws. Contextualize the facts and grounds and measure the validity and functioning of the Constitution respectively. Human rights curriculum, the origins of development and the consequences of eradication of racism. The race case is Peter D. Jaeger versus the University of Pretoria. Introduction, racism is real and it's universal. Racism in the society will cause that society to fall. The goal of this project is to recognize racism, understand it, and then learn to eliminate it. This project is designed to have students look at today's problems so they can formulate tomorrow's answers. The race case is the first cyber-based moot court of its kind where legal precedent as well as real-time and ongoing litigation related to racism is used in an integrated case study. Top young minds in the world will present their arguments to a bench consisting of 2 assessors, 2 judges, who are constitutional experts, and the presiding judge. So it'd be 3-judge panel, and the jury will consist of 10 seniors who will be selected from various schools and law faculties of participating countries. That'll be for the very final deal. Excuse me. Then he goes in and has a bunch of stuff that you can look at on your own, how to define racism, perspectives of racism, beware racism scares. This is really interesting. Different people will have their God looking like them and then wonder why they get questioned if it doesn't look like them. It's kind of interesting. Racial profiling. Then they go into a little bit more on racial consciousness in South Africa. And again on this, and it goes through, and you can see the. I'll let you guys look at it when you come. I mean, when you get from there. I want to draw your attention back, and then we're going to look at the background assessment real quickly, and then we're going to look at the case. The background assessment is I cut out some of the stuff from it because they had some really pretty graphic pictures. But this is try to give you a background of what actually has gone on with in this fictitious case. Remember, this is a fictitious case. It's Peter DeJager, who is a PhD in economics. He's the applicant, which is the appellant in the United States, and the respondent is the University of Pretoria. Okay, and you're going to see that is going to give you some background, and this will actually give the background a little bit deal. It was at this time that William de Orteno, a native of Kenya, was hired to teach part-time. He taught 2 courses in economic redistribution. He was an avid socialist with heavy interest in both Lenin and Stalin. His idea was that capitalism is inherently evil and should be replaced with a system whereby the government takes from the rich and gives to the poor. Several months ago, Dr. Ortega led a student protest rally that marched to the U.S. Embassy. This protest shouted out slogans as "Death to the Boers," "Death to the Americans," and carried signs, "Give us back our land now." In an interview in the South Africa media, Dr. Ortega remarked, South Africa should take back land from all white people and give it to blacks because that was their land first. And then he goes in and explains what was a threat, what was direct, what was implied. And then you're going to look at just different things. These extracts will help you provide the essence of a race case in context. And he goes on for probably another 30-something pages of things that you can get and give a background. So you have 2 PowerPoints that'll give you a background, and then we're going to go to the case itself, which we are going to do next.
I don't know if I can ask a quick question, or
No.
perhaps you'll be answering that later. The students, when I introduced this, the Moot court case, the students are worried about the writing of the brief. I believe that you are requiring the students to do.
Right.
How should they prepare for this? You know, is there a particular thing
Yeah.
that you're looking, a format or something?
Yeah, I'll show you that right now.
You're not pushing anything right at the moment, is that correct?
No, I'm not pushing anything because I went back to when you asked the question, I went back to go open this up. Okay, let's
Because
talk
the
a
students
little.
are actually,
You see it now?
sorry, the students are worried that they will not be able to write something that's good enough to present.
Oh, no. Okay, the writing part is actually just trying to help you out to get to your oral arguments. And if you can't do the writing part, don't worry. It may be, okay, Mary, it may end up being that we might have to do a couple of these before they feel comfortable about the writing part. Does that make
Right.
sense? Okay, so
Yeah,
I mean,
because 8 pages seems like, you know.
well, okay, the 8 pages are heavily formatted, but let me try to go over the case itself, and then I'll try to explain, okay? And I can actually show you, how it would be very simple. If I go over it first, explain it, and then I'll give you an example, okay?
Sure.
Okay, the world affairs,
Just so that
go ahead.
you're not showing anything yet.
Oh, wow, sorry.
And just to let you know, we have to be signing off in about 15 minutes.
Okay, then I'll be real quick. Okay.
The time wouldn't be so, it wouldn't be such constraint next week.
Right. No, yeah, it'll be really nice next week. Okay, now we'll go back to sharing.
Still not seeing anything.
Yeah, I know. I had to go back to. Okay, now this will work, and I'll try to. Okay, now you can see. Okay, this
That
is
is-
actually the case itself. It gives you the background information of the case. You can read it. Hopefully, you can explain to them. It basically boils down to you have a very well-educated person that graduated from Harvard University that has worked at this university for about 13 years. He was on the fast track to become the dean of the economics department. He also had been an expert witness in the House of Representatives here in the United States. So he was called by foreign countries to deliver information. Very, very competent. Has written over 20 books on economics. He ends up inheriting a farm from his great-grandfather. I didn't mention he's like a seventh-generation South African. Then the department hires this gentleman from Kenya, it's another country in Africa, as a part-time person. And he is very strong into socialism and very active politically. When the dean of the economics department passes away, Peter decides to apply for his job. And at that time, since it's already a standard job, it's already been there, he has to fit under the quota where they have to have 75% of the people being African and then 25% being Africana. And at that point, he isn't allowed, he's the only person that applies, and at the very last minute, this other gentleman applies. And when he goes to the interview, he realizes that he probably wouldn't get the job, but the other guy gets the job. Well, the other guy does get the job. He is asked about a week or two later after the guy starts to come into the office, and then he is summarily forced to resign. That's what he thinks. He signs a paper resignation, and then he turns around and sues the university because he feels like he was forced out for racial reasons. And that's what you would see on the deal. Okay, and then you would argue on both sides, and there's really good case law on both sides to argue. Go ahead. Let me try to show you, let me stop share here a second, and I'm going to pull up something. I'll show you what a skeleton looks like.
Quick question. I think it is not. Is it like not politically correct? It's incorrect. Incorrect if you say black person or white person nowadays, right?
Well, I don't know what you say, because in the United States we call people African American, but if you're from Africa, you are you couldn't be African Americans. You could just be African. So you know, I don't know how we'll come across that one. And
yeah, that's what I was. That's what I had in mind, because in this case, how am I going to refer to this person, that person, and without referring to the word black or white?
Well, you might just go black or white. And if Adrian didn't have a power failure, he could answer the question real quickly. But let me show you this part, and then I have it.
He's not online, or is he online?
He's not online. I guess they had a power failure. He was really worried about that. He sent me all this stuff, and I will, okay, now what I need to show you is your question on the other part, okay?
Right. So Adrian Myers wrote this?
No, I wrote the case.
Oh, wow, good for you.
And I wrote the case, so all that case stuff is my stuff, my imagination. And then he wrote all the background not the background information, but he wrote all the PowerPoints and stuff for it. So you're actually getting pretty neat deal. And he's an attorney and he's been doing this stuff for a long time. And then next year we're working on a water project together about water rights, which would be pretty good. But let me try to show you this, okay? Now. Here is what a copy, can everyone see this? This is what the,
yes.
Okay, I'll have this up on the Google Classroom. This is what the front page would look like. if you were on each side, this would be for the applicant, and all of a sudden, if you want to put it for the respondent, you put respondent, then you would put your name, and then you would put your high school on the very bottom. So that's just a fill in the blank. The first statement is a statement of the case. This is about 3 or 4 sentences explaining what this case is about. It can be very, very easy. The second one is statement of the facts. This is 2 paragraphs explaining what the case is about according to your side. In other words, pretend like it's it's a he said, she said. You're going to say, if you were for Peter, you would put all the facts that would be supporting Peter. If you were for the University of Pretoria, you would put all the facts supporting the University of Pretoria there. There are facts on both sides that would lead you to believe that's the case, okay? Then each of them would have, for Roman numeral number 3, and this will be on the power, I'm just explaining, this will be up there in just a moment. There are 2 points of error. First and second, both of these are going to be the same. So this will always be the same. The hardest part will be explaining, and I can give you even explanations here, but point number 4, Roman numeral number 4, is the case law arguments. The first point of error will have some case law, and then I give you links on that. You need 3 or 4 arguments to put in here. The second point of law, you would need 3 or 4 arguments to put in there. The conclusion is a 1 or 2 paragraph conclusion, and then the prayer. And the prayer would be, we humbly request in reviewing, you decide to grant Mr. Yeager his constitutional rights and give back his job or whatever, and then respectively submitted, and then you would have your name right there. Okay? That's all that is for 8 pages. Basically, much of it's done for you here. All you'd have to do is just stick in a few different things, so it's not very hard to do. I gave you a format, I gave you a template, and I can even help you with that if the problem is language or whatever. Do you have any questions over that?
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, I'll have this.
Help. It's very helpful.
Yeah, this takes it from being a theory to sound like 8 pages to this is just a formatted deal. It's probably maybe 2 or 3 pages worth of information. You look at some court cases and stuff, and then you can put that in there. And I even broke it down to how you could do on both sides. I have one side up today, and I have the other side up tomorrow.
Excellent.
I'm coughing. Sorry. Any questions at all over any of this? I'm sorry that Adrian wasn't here. He would probably explain this much better, but I'm really excited, so I want to at least make sure that you guys would be able to see it. I think we lost her, but, she's going to be doing it. The people in Turkey are going to be doing it. We have several schools in Uganda and South Africa are going to be doing it. We can... all you do, you get a certificate, and we'll give the top certificates everyone will get a certificate, but if you get one of the top ranks, we give you a better certificate, and hopefully sometime they're going to try to do it next year to have a competition in South Africa because they can invite you to go there. But this year, I don't think they want to invite anybody to go anywhere because I don't think anybody wants to travel, but, so it's going to lead to some international competition as well.
That sounds great. I think it's well thought out and structured so that students can follow. That's just wonderful.
Yeah, I was trying to aim for people just like yourself because most of the people we've been talking to all these years were English foreign language teachers. So and a lot of my students English is not their first language either. So we try to make it easy enough to where somebody who's not a native English speaker could still be able to do this, and then we can just build from this,
Yes, this is very helpful because, like doing these kind of papers, and in the past we wrote white paper for, the climate change conferences, and the language was always a problem for students because, different types of writing in different occasions. It cannot be too colloquial. It cannot contain the slangs that people may use in their everyday life. And students probably, most of them cannot really actually see the main difference. So a lot of the writing would be, informal, and the tone would be incorrect.
Well, see, Mary, I know you don't mostly have, but let's look at this one. Let's try to use this one as a test, and then we can see how much we can do it. And then when we do the next one, like South Africa, I don't know what's going on. I got bad.
Could you say the last sentence again? It broke off.
Yeah, it's got bad. What's it? Okay. Don't worry so much about this having to be perfect, because I feel like if they did it once and they did it again later on, like in May or something for that Peter Pedler one, they're able to, you could watch the improvement.
Okay.
Because then when we're going to do a water case with Adrian in the fall, and then we're going to do a genocide case with him in the spring. So my idea would be like, okay, where we're at right now, in a year from now, we should be much further ahead, and then we could actually utilize this and say, oh my gosh, these students are doing amazing because they went from informal language to very formal language. They'd be able to do these templates themselves, and we're trying to teach them both writing and oral and written skills.
Great. I think that's a great vision.
Yeah, I think this is actually what it is, a combination of all the stuff I've been trying to do for many years, but we're trying to get it all done kind of correctly, and then try to write some journal articles about it and try to explain how you could actually learn a lot more by doing stuff like this than you can just in the traditional classroom and sitting down with books that are 8 and 10, 20 years old.
Excellent. Thank you so much for putting so much effort into this, because we can see all of your time and effort in these, the materials that you sent us, and also the materials that you just showed us.
Right. I will send to you, as soon as we get done here, I will send you the link for the Google Classroom, and get your kids to sign up in that, or you can sign up in it, and then you can get to download information. That way it's easier than anything else I could think of, because these are really large. Those slideshows around 50 or 60 slides each. So I didn't show you all. It would be here for hours. And then the case is like 17 or 18 pages. And then I have these other things. So we'll have about 7 or 8 different deals. You go through there, and I'll try to have everything explained for you, so you would pretty much know, how to go on. I want to talk back with you probably beginning next week, and we'll try to set some kind of timelines, and we'll kind of have an idea after I talk to Aylin and a couple other people about, and the people. She said that the one lady said from SAID that they won't be back to March the 10th. So I originally was trying to get some of this stuff done earlier, but we maybe look at mid-April to try to start, try to see what we can do on the oral and the written part, and then we'll just see. Again, just tell the kids we're trying to learn more by learning through the process than we are about who wins or loses. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, because at some point we want them to be comfortable in front of judges, and Adrian would love to invite everybody to come to South Africa probably next year when the viruses and stuff settle down. So I'd like to really be able to put on a really nice presentation for them.
I think that the role that Adrian and you take would be, point out the things that students did really well, for each team, and let them know that they can thrive on that, and the other team can observe and learn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then in general, point out the weak points that they could improve on, in the near future. And I think that would be, great.
I can always remember that first time when I saw Roy, when y'all went against that school from Canada, those lawyers were giving all that feedback. That was really impressive.
I know. really were impressed so much by Roy's performance. And the one real success, the one element that I would really recommend from his success would be that he is very, very modest and determined. Even with, with his previous achievements when he was, well, I would say like when he was in the first year here, and his language was proficient, but he never looked down on anybody. He would teach others, and then he would try to learn more. He was always modest and say, "Oh, I'm not, I'm not perfect. I'm not even near perfect. My English is not that good." But the actuality is that it is better than most. But he keeps learning. He never ever stops.
Wow.
And that's the main reason. Yeah, that's the main reason that he's where he is right now. He's like in one of the very prestigious law firms. So that's what makes him so busy. We can have, it's very rare and that we can see him nowadays because he's at the law firm with so many important cases going on.
Wow, that is really. And the neat thing about it was you could actually see him, and you could tell your kids there right there. You actually got to. Or some of the people actually got to see him where he might be one of the leaders of Taiwan sometime in the near future. And, some of our people all around the world actually got to interact with them, which is totally amazing.
Yes, that's right. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
hosting our session today.
Okay, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. We'll see you on 12.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.